The Democratic Party always gets hung up on rhetoric and does nothing of substance.
Trump will lose, will not be able to run again. Unclear if the Republican Party as it exists now will continue to exist as a single party.
Welcome to the Fourcast, where four frum pundits talk politics. Meet the all-star lineup.
I'm Benjamin Rose, Mishpacha magazine editor-at-large.
I'm Maury Litwack, Teach Coalition CEO and political insider.
I'm Stu Loser, longtime Democratic communications strategist.
And I'm Eli Steinberg, conservative commentator.
Okay, so let's get down to politics.
Greetings to all of our listeners and welcome to another edition of Fourcast. I'm Benjamin Rose, and today we will ask and hopefully answer the following question. Will the Jews be blamed if Donald Trump loses? Earlier this week, the media was buzzing over one line in Donald Trump's 45-minute speech to the Israeli-American Council in Washington. If you look at the headline coverage, Trump said, according to the headline coverage, that if he loses the election, the Jews would bear the blame. But is that what Trump really said? Well, to quote the famous former sportscaster Warner Wolf, let's go to the videotape.
If I don't win this election, and the Jewish people would really have a lot to do with that if that happens, because at 40%, that means 60% of the people are voting for the enemy. Israel, in my opinion, will cease to exist within 2 years, and I believe I'm 100% right. If I do win, Israel will be safe and secured. We will stop the toxic poison of anti-Semitism from spreading here. All over America, it's spreading. It's spreading like it's never spread before. I've never seen anything like it. I really believe it would be obliteration, and it'll happen quickly, too. It's very close to happening. With your vote, we will reject anti-Semitism in our schools, reject it in our foreign policy. We will reject it in our immigration system. But all of that starts with rejecting Kamala Harris at the ballot box this election.
So look, even Miri Adelson, the mega Republican donor, slapped Trump on the wrist for saying that Israel won't exist in 2 years if Harris is elected. She reminded Trump that we've got God on our side and he's going to take care of us. However, if you listen to what Trump said, he did not use the word blame, that he would blame the Jews. That's a media interpretation, so I'm going to give mine, because I listened to the entire speech. And as far as I'm concerned, what he was saying was a challenge to the Jewish voter. He was saying, you have to vote for me, you better vote for me. Was there a little bit of a threat implied? Of course, because that's how Donald Trump talks. But I don't see that there's anything there that people could stick him to and say, you know, something, if he loses, then they're going to blame the Jews, and God forbid there's going to be consequences. Gentlemen, how did you hear it?
I'll go first. I completely disagree with you, Benjamin. I think it's very pashut that that's what he was saying. I don't think this is... It's one of those things where you can, what's being argued for him is, well, that's not what he meant, or in his heart he meant that, but his words were that, and I think his words were disturbing. And I think the metric for language like this is, if Kamala Harris had said it, everyone in both our community and the Jewish community overall, and in the Republican base, would have been losing their minds, and they would have said that this is you cannot say that it's going to be our fault if someone doesn't win an election, based on a whole host of reasons, including our population size and everything else. And I just think that this is another example of where, when it comes to the Donald Trump campaign and the presidency, we too often basically just give this latitude and say, well, you know, that's not what he meant, or really this is what it is, etc. But that's the language he said. And when he's talking to tens of millions of people and people are hearing it, what he says actually matters, and it is disturbing. And I think it has to be recognized as that. And as a community, this is another example of where we have to look at things from a bipartisan perspective and from looking at both parties and how we would think about this. And I think certainly if the metric was, if a Democrat said that, would the community be just as upset? And I think the answer is yes.
Now, I'm going to say one thing over here. I'm not going to disagree with you about the phrasing, but I'm going to tell you that I agree with you. The words said that, you know, in the way of looking at it, the Jewish community would be responsible for a loss. And that's not really like Donald Trump's opinion, right? That's math. The difference in what Donald Trump sees, and he's entitled to see himself, as people like me do, as good for Jews. The difference between what he sees as he's earned sort of capital with the Jewish community, and how that should translate to votes, and the actual votes that he gets in the Jewish community, Jewish people who identify as Jewish. It's improperly weighted, we can say, and that difference in elections that he's been a part of that have been decided by tens of thousands of votes would make the difference in an election. Now, saying that, the way he said it was, like you're saying, Maury, the way he speaks. But the bigger...
No. But guys...
Let me just finish the point here.
Okay,
the reason why Maury's comparison to how would we behave if Kamala Harris would say it, or if a Democrat would say it, it's very simple why this would be different. You look at Donald Trump's body of work as it pertains to the Jewish community, and you look at how Democrats reacted to things that he did positively for the Jewish community, and how they themselves on things that matter behave. Take things like, Ilhan Omar, when she said her things a few years back, very condemned in words, everybody put strong statements about how this is anti-Semitic. And then when it came time to censure or to do something that actually had meaning, they did nothing. Trump, Title VI, he added protections for anti-Semitism.
Okay,
were against
I
it
let you
too.
talk. I let you talk. But if we want to talk about Ilhan Omar, the issue wasn't just her words, the Pashut, but she invoked anti-Semitic memes, anti-Semitic themes that have been with us for centuries, and she was criticized for that, rightly. She said she didn't know. Donald Trump isn't just mathematically lying and saying that if he doesn't win Pennsylvania, it will be because of the Jews, or if he doesn't win Michigan, it will be because of the Jews, which is essentially what he is saying.
Yeah, I'm already saying the same thing.
Pardon? No, but
Maury's
it's
saying
worse
that
than
Jews
that.
can
It's
make a
worse than that.
difference.
He's accusing us of dual loyalty. This is like a blood oath. This is absolutely a dual loyalty. He's saying, I've done this thing for Israel, and you have to be loyal to me on this. He is saying that we cannot, first of all, he's saying that we cannot vote on any other issue other than Israel. He cannot say that a Jewish voter can have a reasonable disagreement with him about whether or not it's good to invite virulent anti-Semites to your club for dinner like he did with Nick Fuentes, whether or not it's okay
who
for your vice president to go on and show
Kamala,
that
right?
platform's Holocaust denial. I say no. Whether or not it's okay in a presidential debate, as Donald Trump says, when asked about Bibi Netanyahu, he said, let me tell you about Viktor Orban. Now, we can debate about whether or not Viktor Orban is actually an anti-Semite, but without a doubt, we could debate that. We cannot debate the fact that under Viktor Orban, Hungary is rewriting the history of the Holocaust, and it is a Holocaust minimizer and a Holocaust denial. These are the things that Donald Trump is playing to.
This is the thing that I enjoy about it. I have an uncle of mine is an attorney. He used to say, famous lawyer joke that, when you have the facts on your side, you pound on the facts.
You don't have the facts on
When
your
you have
side,
the law,
Ellie.
one second. When you have the facts on the side, you pound on the facts. And you have the law on the side, you pound on the law. What
Okay,
happens
Ellie,
if you don't have the facts or the law, you pound on the table? What the
It
Democrats
is a
do
dog
all
whistle.
the time.
When it is a
Let
dog
me
whistle.
ask you, Stu, here's the point. Now, this is the real point. We can get hung up about a dinner that Trump had.
A one-on-one dinner.
Not one-on-one. There was a few people there, but whatever.
3-on-1.
Let's get hung up about this
A
dinner
long time
for
ago,
this
2
guy,
years ago.
2 years ago, for this guy
Okay.
who now came out and said, "Oh, Trump is too good for the Jews. I think I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris." Let's get hung up on that dinner. I'm not going to make a big deal about that because it's one.
I can give you a dozen examples.
But 1 second. Let's talk. This is the split. Is that the Democratic Party always gets hung up on rhetoric.
No,
And does nothing of substance. I'm going to ask you a question, Stu, a direct question.
the rhetoric is the leader of the party is trafficking in anti-Semitic tropes. A leader of the president, by the way, Thomas Crooks, the guy who shot at him in Pennsylvania, his first assassin, also trafficked in anti-Semitism.
So what are we saying?
Trafficking anti-Semitism.
So him and Trump are on the same team. The guy who took a shot at Trump and Trump are on the same team. Because
They are both responding to anti-Semitic. Yes, they are both responding to anti-Semitic tropes, and I will tell you why they are doing it, Ellie.
I'm gonna
Donald
ask-
Trump has done 2/3 fewer rallies this summer than when he ran before. He is an old man who is slowing down. We all agree old men who are slowing down shouldn't be president. He is slowing down. He has run out of voters who don't know him. So he is reaching out to voters who do not know them to get them to vote the first time. That's why he's going on so many podcasts. That's why he won't attack people who are platforming other guests because it ruins him within his podcast network. And he is trafficking in anti-Semitic tropes. He is wink, wink, nodding, saying, I hear what you're saying because I listen to you. I hear what you're saying from the other guests and who you listen to. And Maury is right. If a Democrat did anything close to this, there would be outroar.
I see what you did there, Stu, bringing up Trump's rallies. You're not going to get me distracted that way.
Because you're smarter than Trump. Because we're all smarter than Trump. Because our toes are smarter than Trump.
Here's my point in short. When it comes to doing anything of substance on anti-Semitism, the Democrats are always out to lunch. Take, for example, Cori Bush just lost her primary, right? She lost her primary, and she went on an unhinged anti-Semitic, overtly anti-Semitic rant in her concession speech. Okay,
And was criticized for it.
And was criticized for it.
By
100%
Democrats.
By Democrats, said it's anti-Semitic, it's very bad. Guess what? She's still on committees, and she's still in the caucus. Nothing changed. Nothing of substance ever changes.
She got kicked out of office.
She got kicked out of office by the voters. Democratic leadership is keeping her in her committee assignments and keeping her in the caucus, even though she said the most
Right, there are
overtly
6 House
anti-Semitic
Republicans.
things.
There are 6 House Republicans, we'll talk about it next week, who have said far worse things. Let's kick them off. The Republicans
Stu,
don't kick off the anti-Semites either.
This, Stu, is my point. My point is that when it comes to everything, the Democrats put out statements and do nothing. Therefore, it stands to reason when you have a guy like Trump who's done things for the Jewish community. Title VI, like we said. Title VI, he was criticized. All of a sudden, give protections to Jews on campus? Oh my gosh, free speech, the Democrats said. Don't protect the Jews, right? Things like that. Anytime anything comes up of substance, the Democrats push back. The Democrats won't do anything of substance. So Trump says something, that's the whole game for them. Trump said something, yes, he said something. Maury's been making the argument about how the Jewish community can impact the election as well. We're all making that because we matter. That's what Trump is saying, that we matter. And by his understanding of what he's done for the Jewish community, which people like me agree to, right? He deserves more of the vote of the Jewish community than he's been getting. And that is a difference between winning and losing. And he's not saying go out and hunt the Jew.
Benjamin, let's get it over to you. What else do you have to say on this topic?
All right, gentlemen, I thank you all for expressing your strong and well-reasoned opinions. I would like to encourage our listeners, if they have the time, to give a listen to Trump's entire speech, 45 minutes. And if anyone thinks after listening to the entire 45 minutes in his spirited defense of the Jewish people in Israel, that you need to focus on one line in his speech where he expressed himself in the typical crude way that he often does, then that's your decision to make. I saw it differently. Again, I saw it that, here's a man who's really going to help Israel and defend the Jews. And perhaps it's because I live in Israel, but living here and being under attack every day, and especially the last day where there's been missiles fired into Tel Aviv and into Tzfas, where I used to live, I want someone who's going to be very staunch to defend Israel. And with his actions, and his words really matter a little bit less to me. Anyway, that's my point. And Maury, take it away.
I just want to add that once upon a time, James Baker said something horrible, or it was reported that he said something horrible. And literally after election for George Bush about the Jewish community, and people on the right, on the left, everyone agreed that it was outrageous because a presidential rhetoric matters. It actually matters. And a presidential resume matters, and presidential rhetoric matters. And I think as a Jewish community, we do not have to say that a resume on certain things that we really care about trumps the rhetoric. Both matter and should matter, because people remember small things in elections and after elections. They remember read my lips, no more taxes, right? They remember those types of things, and people will not listen to 45 minutes worth of a speech. They will see and hear a clip of it, which is being shared or others. And you may like it or not that the media is sharing that clip, but it does matter. And so to me, I still think that this is a pretty easy softball call by almost anybody in politics to say it is disturbing. It has to be called out as disturbing, very troubling. It's the kind of thing that we should be able to agree on. And I know there's differences of opinions on that, but I think there's resume, there's rhetoric, and we have to think about and aspire to have a president that can do both. I want to turn it over to the lightning round. As is always the case, we don't share with our panelists these questions so that it's much more interesting, so that they're ready to go. We see how smart they are and how quick they are. We will kick it off with a question about North Carolina. Is Kamala Harris going to win North Carolina? Stu, what do you think? Is Kamala Harris going to win North Carolina?
She was already going to win it before the Republicans refused to even not only replace, but even criticize the black Nazi who denies the Holocaust and minimizes the Holocaust, who's running for governor.
Ellie, what do you think?
Stu also thinks that Kamala Harris is going to win Texas. So, there's that. But if you remember from last week's pod, I said that North Carolina would be more swingy than even Pennsylvania, which I think is closer to a Trump win. So North Carolina, who knows, up for grabs.
Benjamin, what do you think? Up for grabs or Kamala or Trump?
Trump. I heard an interesting take from Sean Trendy, the senior elections analyst on Real Clear Politics. On his podcast, he said that the Robinson issue may actually counterintuitively help Trump. He said that people who go to the polls in North Carolina will vote for Robinson's opponent, and then they'll be able to feel that they're good guys and they can say I was a good citizen today, and that will free up their conscience to vote for Trump.
Yeah, that's probably more wish casting than anything.
I still think it's in Trump's column. I think scandal aside and other things like that, I don't think it'll be enough to bring it down. I still think it's there. I think there'll be other surprises, but I think Trump takes North Carolina. Next question. Do Americans, and more specifically voters, care about a government shutdown? Does anyone care anymore? I always ask this question. Does anyone care? It's being reported like nonstop. Doesn't matter for the House. That doesn't matter for Republican politics, Democrat politics. Benjamin, what do you think? Do people care?
Look, if you're one of the Washington workers who works in government, yes, you do care because you don't know whether to go to work or not or whether you'll get paid. But I think this whole thing with the budget, with the debt limit is ridiculous because they always raise the limit and they ought to stop having these votes twice a year. Just say, listen, we're already in debt $35 trillion, so let's just keep it going. Let's go unlimited until people stop buying our bonds, and then we'll see we have a problem, and then we'll actually do something serious.
Stu?
Yes, people care that our government can't do minimal functions that it's their job to do.
Ellie?
I'm going to take a little bit more of a nuanced take on this. I think that for the light your hair on fire, oh my gosh, the government is shut down, that the media and the left, who this issue always seems to benefit, portray it as, definitely not. But at a certain point, when it extends past a certain point and starts impacting people's lives, that's when people start caring. There's a lot of theater that's involved with it, like closing the parks and et cetera, et cetera. But yeah.
I don't know if you guys are following the story about Governor Whitmer and her not taking a side in a fight between the Attorney General and Rashida Tlaib over student prosecutions. And it's a big fight. And it's basically Whitmer came out with a very surprising statement saying, look, I'm staying out of it. How do you think, Stu, how do you think that affects her for 2028?
Well, 2028 is irrelevant because Kamala Harris is going to be president and running for re-election. So I don't really know. I can't really map out the Senate seats there, but I actually don't know what her path forward is. I can't understand or explain this. The Attorney General seems to be in the right here.
Ellie, go.
Yeah, no, this is one of those cases like something we were talking about earlier. Rashida Tlaib said that Dana Nessel was only prosecuting the students who were harassing Jewish students because she's Jewish. Everybody recognizes that that's an anti-Semitic thing to say. Governor wouldn't weigh in. Then she put out a half-hearted statement a day later because she got pushback. And then now the entire Democratic apparatus is coming out saying, oh, well, she never really said it was because she's Jewish. She did. It's anti-Semitic. Democrats will continue to excuse it, period.
Benjamin.
I just told you her career maybe
Just you.
ended.
Benjamin.
You're a good guy.
Benjamin.
Maury, I saw a headline on this. I didn't delve into the story. I'm not surprised that the Democratic governor of the state of Michigan didn't take on a Democratic congresswoman from the state of Michigan. That's typical cowardly politics. I do think that by 2026, the group that AIPAC formed to target people who have a poor track record on Israel will find someone better to run against Tlaib, and she'll be bounced out of office like Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman and a bunch of others.
This is a 2-for-1, and we got 30 seconds. Trump says if he loses, he isn't going to run again. Do you believe him? And while we're at it, if Harris loses, is that the end of it for her career? Let's go with Ellie first.
Yeah, Trump's not going to lose, A. B, yeah, Kamala Harris can't win the primary. So we know that already.
Is Trump running again if he loses?
He's not losing.
Stu.
Trump will lose, will not be able to run again. Unclear if the Republican Party as it exists now will continue to exist as a single party. Kamala Harris, one of the things she has shown is that when you are exciting and have new ideas, you actually automatically are a strong candidate. And if she doesn't win this time, there's going to be other candidates who are also exciting, new, and smart and strong.
Benjamin?
If Trump loses, he won't run again, and the Republicans will have to remake their party from scratch once again. The question is, if he wins, will he run again? Because normally a president is limited to 2 terms, even if they're not consecutive. But there's some issues with the interpretation of the Constitution on that, so we'll have to see how that plays out. If Harris loses, I think she's done politically. Maybe she can go back to being district attorney in San Francisco, but I don't think that she's going to have a national political life after this. If after all the hype and all the money that she's raised can't win her and buy her the presidency, then I don't see why anyone would vote for her for public office again.
I think this is the last time we ever see a Trump-Harris together on a ticket. Obviously, back-to-back. I don't think Trump can run. I think he's going to be too old. Harris, obviously, people will blame and say that Biden should have run, and that's why she lost. So I think they're both going to be in political retirement for the presidential, whomever loses. Let's go to our bold predictions here. I'm going to predict that a lot of what we've seen over the last 2 to 3 weeks since the Democratic convention, with Harris bump significantly, starts to tighten up beyond. I think we see some poll over the next week also that shows on the national side that Trump's even or up or 2. I haven't seen any serious new things that the Harris campaign have done to sort of keep the momentum going. That's sort of counterintuitive to what a lot of the national polls are saying, but I think he's going to tighten up. So that's my bold prediction for the next week. And then we're going to be off to the races with a really race. If you enjoy this race, it's going to be even tighter and more razor thin than before. Stu, what do you think? What do you got?
24 years ago, and I worked for Al Gore and Joe Lieberman, Zkorno Livrata, against George Bush. We did not understand. No one in our campaign understood that George Bush was using coded language. We talked about compassionate conservatism in my heart, that meant something different for evangelicals than it did for the rest of us. We had no evangelicals, no one to tell us this code, because he was doing a legitimate and fair dog whistle. Donald Trump is playing to the replacement theory. Jews will not replace us anti-Semites with statements like the one we've spent most of the podcast debating, and I hope he doesn't get away with it.
I'll also go on the polling side of things. We did start already seeing, I think last night, the CNN poll that has the race tied. I think the New York Times poll, the Sun Belt, shows, Trump ahead. I think that in the next week, we'll see, here's my bold prediction, we'll see a lot of polls showing either candidate with huge leads in the same places, which further cements the fact that this is a choose-your-own-adventure kind of polling landscape. And nobody's going to know what's going on, and everyone's just going to believe what they thought before.
Benjamin?
Maury, I'll take off on what you said by saying, I don't know about the race tightening up in terms of the popular vote. Trump seems to have this trouble getting over 47 or 48% support in the polls. The important thing is which states is he going to win, because we all know that it's the Electoral College that counts. So I think that over the next couple of weeks, if you take a look at what Senator Fetterman said in Pennsylvania, he says he doesn't see how Harris is leading in Pennsylvania based on the way he takes the pulse of the people. So I think we're likely to see Pennsylvania in the polls starting to tip toward Trump in the next couple of weeks. And if that's the case, then that could change the whole momentum in the race. Okay, so that wraps it up for today's session. We hope you enjoyed the spirited debate and also learned something. Do you agree with us? Disagree? Have your own thoughts? Let us know at podcasts@mishpacha.com.